don't make mistakes. I'm not just like the rest of you. I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
Hello, everyone. Welcome live from the Marvel Bullpen in the 1970s in New York City.
Gotta be amazing.
I wanted to go there. I wanted to go there so bad.
Yeah, same.
And the first time I went to New York, I went and looked at like where Marvel Comics was, and I was like, "It's just an office building." What? So upset.
It's like Bart going to the Mad Magazine offices in the New York episode.
Yeah,
this is where they make the Spider-Man.
Yeah,
it's just a desk
At
indoors.
one point, there was a Spider-Man. I think it was like a Swingers comic, the spinoff of Spider-Man.
Yeah,
there was a in the 90s. There was a comic called Swingers, which is a bunch of like characters that helped Spider-Man. I don't really remember.
Wow, yeah. I do remember this.
I don't remember this at all, but it sounds like it's not what I thought.
And none of them had spider powers. None of them were like, they all just had random things. Anyway, at one point they go by the Marvel Comics office, and it had like Home of Spider-Man up top or something like that, like adorning the building facade. So I kind of was like, well, maybe they have something like that in real life. And no, it's just a building. It's just a dumb old building.
Comics Code Authority.
But
yeah,
I just always assumed that when you walked into whatever office building the Marvel offices were in, the security guard working the front desk was just Stan Lee. They're just like, we just got to find something for him to do. So
yeah.
It's a security guard that just happens to have an eye patch, and you're like, oh, it's Nick Fury.
Smoking a cigar because it's the 70s.
Hail Hydra. And then they left. They let you in to say Hydra.
It depends which elevator they have you go up.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm here to see Mr. JimShooter. I got a complaint.
Oh, I have many.
I think y'all give him a hard time. He put out some of the best comics ever during his run as editor-in-chief.
He also won't put up with it, and he'll probably beat you up.
And okay, but I have 2 words for you. Actually, I have 4 words for you.
Oh boy.
Secret Wars, New Universe.
You're gonna have some failures. Yeah, that New Universe was rough, man. They kept trying to make that happen so bad.
Oh, it's obvious Shooter like put all his eggs in that basket. So
yeah, and that was like less than 2 years and gone.
Yeah, it was bad.
Sometimes we still get Nightshade and what's his name?
Yeah, Starbrand. Yeah, they
Starbrand.
But does anyone remember Nom? I don't think so.
Nom was not New Universe. Nom was a
no. I thought
it was It was a standalone Vietnam comic book that was by Mike Golden that ran for a little bit. Then I think somebody else took over after a while. It's hard to find in paperback, I believe, but there's a few trades that are collected out there. The Nam was fucking fantastic.
Like, I've heard it's really good, but
it's really good because it is really about war and just bad shit. And I was surprised it was like, hey, let's make a fun comic for kids out of it.
Yeah, I was always like, whenever I was younger flipping through Nom comics, I was like, this doesn't seem like it's for me. It doesn't seem fun.
Yeah, no, it was. I always had that response too. All right, I recant. You are correct. It is not a New Universe book.
I believe it's
come out at the same time though.
Yeah, it was around the same time. So again, give credit to JimShooter for putting
a
war comic out for kids in a time that there were no war comics.
Fine.
But yeah, that
so Marvel in the 90s, 80s, 90s, so woke. Ugh, gross.
Who can name every New Universe title though?
Hey, JimShooter, keep your politics out of my comic books.
I mean, one could also argue he was just following trends because again, remember all of the Vietnam movies in the 80s into the early 90s. I mean, it was that 20-year gap of looking back and reconsidering that time. So
yeah, but every
Spitfire
company kind of follows trends. Spitfire, was it DP7?
DP7.
Also a name that does not age well. DP7.
Justice
7 Dr. Peppers.
Yeah. What was the Iron Man ripoff one?
That was Spitfire, I think.
Spitfire.
Yeah, I think it's Spitfire.
Yeah.
Danny's looking at us like he's like, "What the fuck?"
I
are you
just didn't
talking
know
about?
this is how our best of 2024 comic books.
Yeah, we're just going to talk about the best of the worst of Marvel.
Last year was so good that we're just going to talk about 90s comics.
In Starbrand issue 2,
I think if you a little mini spoiler for What If, but there's our Starbrand reference in the What If season 3. Very slight, I think. They kind of combine the two things into one character, or maybe I just don't know that. I don't know Starbrand very well, but I saw online people were like, Starbrand.
Well, Starbrand was in the Jason Aaron Avengers run. It was like a Starbrand baby for a while.
Yeah. They love
I don't
babies.
know what happened.
it seemed like it was a guy who couldn't control the power, and they were trying to control him, and so he was using it against them, and I believe he dies. He just blows himself up. So it's like the Starbrand comes back, but it only but people can't handle it.
Okay.
All right.
Well-
Anyway, I am sorry. I totally derailed this.
Listen, we can have our JimShooter episode at a later date. Put that on the calendar.
And we do need to recap What If season 3 because I have thoughts.
There was some fun stuff, and there was some.
I need to watch it. I still in season 2. That's how bad I am.
I'm with Josh on this. I'm behind on. I still need to catch up
Oh,
on
thank
season
God.
2.
You guys hate animation.
The finale is just the weirdest fucking thing I think anyone ever pitched in a writer's room and said, hey, what if we did this and these guys fought these guys? And I was like, no, no.
Huh.
Yeah, I didn't dig the finale at all.
Well, we'll
It's
talk
a
about
series
it.
finale, right? It's the
Yeah,
it's the
series
final
finale.
one.
That's it. No
Oh,
more.
that's interesting. Why 3 and done? I mean, this could go on. It's
Forever.
You could do it in perpetuity.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're missing out on all. What if Red Hulk could do something that we're never going to see? What
I mean,
all the new characters are going to introduce.
They're doing Marvel Zombies, which is a spin-off of the What If episode. So we'll see. I'm sure they
I would
could
think
bring it
that-
back.
Yeah, I think they'll bring it back.
It just,
At
I
some
feel like
point.
maybe it's just too expensive for
That would make
the
sense.
return.
Yeah, but they bring every actor back to do their voice work almost.
I know. They should just have one person like in an audiobook. There's just
Yeah,
one person that really tries to do all different voices, but I mean, after 20 of them, like they start kind of sounding the same.
Get the guy from Police Academy. I mean, come on. He's a one-man band.
We haven't had a guy make noises since Police Academy, so let's
That's
get that.
true. We haven't. Yeah.
And they've tried. All right. So as I mentioned, we're going to be doing our best of 2024 comic books. And man, let me tell you, this was a tough one because there was a lot of good stuff last year. I have a gigantic list. I was glad to see some stuff already from other people on the list. So we'll talk about that. So let me just kick us off. And these are in no specific order. These are just like our best of recommendations. Like the stuff that we really dug last year. I'm going to kick it off with a Marvel series. This is The Ultimates from the new Ultimate Universe, written by Dennis Camp, with art by Juan Frigeri, and issue 4 has Phil Noto, colors by Federico Bui, letters by Travis Lanham. I think this, to me, feels like the best book on the Ultimate line right now. And there's a lot of books that are really good in the Ultimate line. So that's not to disparage any of the other books, but this just feels so good. It's hard to beat this for me. Dennis Camp on writing has just entered a next level, and I love that he's just really following up on like Hickman set up all this stuff, and he's like, yeah, I'll take it from here. Let me add it. Hold my beer. Let me go tell you all these really cool, crazy stories. They're interesting. They're poignant. They have something to say, but it's not like, I guess it's subtle enough that if you're not looking for a message in your comics, you can overlook it. But it's also there, right? So it feels, it just feels very natural. So I really appreciate that. And then I think issue number 4, the one with Phil Noto about the origin of the Fantastic Four, it's probably one of the best things I read, like best single issues I read last year. So,
Wow.
So I don't know if any of you guys are reading Ultimates.
I am.
but you
I
should.
think it's great. It is. I would say it's my second favorite of the Ultimate line. And I'll get to my favorite. I think people can probably guess what it is. Maybe, I don't know. But it is great. I think I do think the Ultimates is great. Very solid book. Yeah, I agree.
Jeffrey read Ultimatum last year, so that's his favorite Ultimate book.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, when the Blob eats the Wasp, that's what it. Well, I can't.
That was wild. That was wild.
All right, with that, Jeff, let's send it over to you for one of your picks for 2024.
Sure. I will say that one of my favorite books of this year, going back maybe to the previous year and continuing into this year, is going to be Fantastic Four. Written by Ryan North and just a slew of artists. There's Carlos Gomez, Ivan Fiorelli, just a whole bunch of different other ones. It's from Marvel Comics. I think that Ryan North encapsulates all these characters so well. There's different ways you can take the Fantastic Four. You can take them to super adventure-y kind of stuff. You can make Reed a jerk. You can, whatever. But like, he kind of brings back the family aspect to Fantastic Four. Definitely that is front and center. And the science and exploration stuff, all front and center. These are short one-off. Each issue is like a one-off issue, but there's kind of a slow build background stuff that's happening in the background, story building in the background. But it's so subtle. Like, it's not like if you blink, like, I feel like you're not missing out on anything if you're not reading every single issue. Like, you can still pick up one issue randomly, pick up another issue 4 issues later, and you're still getting a complete story. I think there have been like 1 or 2 since this whole run that have been like 2-issue couplets. You always learn a little bit of science. And again, he just nails these characters. He knows how to write these characters.
Even the tie-in to the events feel like they fit pretty naturally.
Right,
like
exactly.
The blood hunt stuff, or there was one that was like, I don't remember what the tie-in was, but the taking of the building, which was kind of like a riff on the taking of the Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm not fully caught up on Fantastic Four, but from what the stuff that I have read, I agree with Jeff completely.
Yeah,
and
I know put this on my list, but Jeff had it, so I was like, "Oh, that's great then. I'll just." But yeah, it is so good. Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think Ryan North got his start in like web comics and stuff. So I think he's really adept at like writing those. Like, this is a 1-issue thing. I can get a whole story in this 1 issue, and then we're on to the next one. Also, I didn't realize this. I saw a thing on it, but he's got a degree in science of some sort. Like he's
I didn't
like,
know that either.
Yeah, so he's bringing like the real stuff, like when he's writing this stuff. So
and he's genuinely funny. I think it's something that I feel like sometimes, and I don't want to name names, but sometimes there are comic writers who are funny, but they just tend to leverage the funny. I think sometimes at the expense of like characters or story. And North doesn't do any of that. He's good at like just making things fun and funny, telling a good story, having great characters. It's the whole shebang. There is an issue that came out, I want to say maybe 2 issues back, that is just Reed and Johnny solving a problem. And I laughed my ass off. I handed it to my daughter, like, you've got to read this right now. She still hasn't read it, and I'm so angry. But I just there are some absolutely hilarious bits in that issue. And it's the kind of thing that I just want to run out in the street and start handing copies of it to everyone. Like, just go read it. It's so good. So
that issue did make me belly laugh, because there's a scene where in that issue they open up a portal to hell or something like that. And Reed figures out that nothing can come out of the portal if something is going into the portal. Yeah. And so they just turn on a hose and just pour water into the portals so something is going in. And then Johnny's like, and they've torn a hole through the roof of the house that they're living in. And so Johnny's like, I've got an idea. Follow me upstairs. And Reed's like holding the thing, the hose to like keep the water pouring in. And Johnny looks down. And he's like, Reed, the water can pour itself. You just have to set it down on the ground. And it's just one of those things where you're like, Reed is so smart that he misses the dumb things in life kind of thing. Or I'm just like, that is brilliant. That is a brilliant touch to this whole comic. Yeah.
If we find out that Ryan North inadvertently sent his family into a parallel Earth, and this is his way of getting them back, that's gonna be really funny.
But again, what's great about this series is by the end of the issue, they've resolved it. It's not like a 5-issue arc. Nothing. It's just one and done. You get a good story. So
okay, yeah, cool. Any final thoughts on Fantastic Four?
I just love it.
Okay. All right. Let me do. So I have a few extra ones. So let me do another one of mine. Then we'll go around the table, and then we'll probably get a couple from Jeff. So my second thing here, and I know what you guys are thinking. Where's Batman? We'll get to it. It is DawnRunner from Dark Horse. This is written by Ram V with art by Evan Cagle, colors by Dave Stewart, letters by Editia Bidikar. This was kind of a last minute thing because in the last couple of weeks of 2024, I had a full list of things that I wanted to go back and revisit or finish because I read issue 1. I think we all read issue 1 in the show, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, that was really cool. When I see it's a miniseries, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'll just wait.
Yeah.
And the collection had recently come out. I think it recently came out because I just pre-ordered it because it's a really nice hardcover. So I went back to read it. This comic is just so cool. Like, it is beautiful to look at. It looks fantastic. The premise is like kaiju versus giant mech. So like, I'm already sold immediately. This is the Pacific Rim that I wanted to kind of keep going, right? And because it is a standalone story, it works really well. Ram V is another one of these writers that in 2024 I feel like reached a new plateau, right? Not only with he wrapped up his arc in Detective Comics. He also has the Rare Flavors book that's like a really intricate Anthony Bourdain and a demon combined type of premise. So like it's somebody that I'm really following, and you might hear the name again on my list later on. Maybe we'll see. And then Evan Cagle's art is just, there are pages where there's no dialogue and it's just the art and it's just the fighting and these kaijus coming through the rift and these like the DawnRunner, the machine itself is connected to the pilot via like their brain, but there's something that the company hasn't told the pilots. It's really interesting, but that kind of leads you to this other kind of ethereal world, which Evan Cagle just looks like it makes it look really cool. And Dave Stewart's colors, just I want to take a few of these panels and just like look at the original. I would love an artist edition of this just because Cagle's art is so detailed that blowing it up would look so cool. And then, like I said, it's just kaijus and giant mechs fighting each other. So like, I'll even on that level, and the most private level of my lizard brain, I'm like, this is cool. This is cool. So, has anybody else read DawnRunner other than what we read for the show?
I just read what we read.
I recommend it. I hope Dark Horse sends us a review copy of the collection. If not, I might have to pass around the book.
That'd be great. Yeah.
So
if you're listening, Dark Horse.
Yeah, Dark Horse. I mean, Dark Horse, they send us a bunch of stuff, but usually just for single issues. Their collections is I don't know. I'll go check my email. Maybe they did send it.
Maybe they'll see this and be like,
yeah. So, all right. Let's go around the horn now. Let's start with Clay. Clay, you want to give us one of yours?
Yeah. Because I've been broke, most of my comics have been from the library and stuff, but occasionally I get to pick up some decent books or a comic here and there. But I got an advanced reader copy of a book called The Feint of Heart by Carrie Lynn Wilson, and read it in one sitting. It was just really, really good. I recommended it for our comic book club for next year. It was just a surprise. I was just like this is just, and it was like a first time writer. Like this is their first book.
That's
So,
amazing.
So it just like I said, the way I described it was kind of the book that catches you off guard, because I kind of thought, oh, I'm just getting a little slice of life kind of story. But it really had this neat, deeper meaning in it, where the story is about people in the future or now, like, willingly take their heart out so they don't feel anything anymore. And it's weird because, like, she sees how everyone becomes without it, like her parents and her sister, and she still has it, and what that means. And it was just a beautiful story, and she wrote and she drew it, and I hope people check it out, because I thought it was a really, really sweet story. It was, I wrote her a fan letter because I was like, this is really good. Like, I really enjoyed this. And so I'm glad that we're going to read it next year for Comic Book Club, because it was just a sweet story. This year.
I know.
I forget what timeline I'm in.
I know. I didn't even say Happy New Year's to everyone. I forgot. I've been typing it on my emails at work every time this week, because it's part of the protocol.
But anytime I get great graphic novels like this, I will donate them or give them to somebody who needs them. So, like, I Kill Giants, the Joe Kelly book, I've gotten a couple of copies of that I've donated to people. And I took my advanced reader copy of Feint of Heart and donated it to one of the local little free libraries. So,
Nice.
yeah, when you find good shit like that, you need to spread the word, because this is not a Marvel, Dark Horse, DC book. This is, I believe it's a HarperCollins book. So it may not be in traditional comic book stuff, because it is a thicker novel looking thing, but it is a graphic novel, and it's really good.
Very cool.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I don't think anybody else has read that, but it's on our list for this year for book club. So hopefully we'll get through to it.
We will. So we can it'll be on our list next year.
Yeah, right. All right.
I hope I'm not overhyping it now.
Oh, I know, right?
It's always like the fear when you're like, you got to read this, and then you're like, please love it. I need to backtrack.
Love this thing, love it.
So, yeah, and then make sure that I'm the one that I'm smart. Do you have to say Happy New Year in all your emails? That's a corporate mandate for your job, Danny.
No, you don't have to. It's just something that we do, like, the first few days, right? It's been 2 work days of the new year, so
it's the new learning to write the new date on your check.
It's to remind yourself that you have to do 2025 on the date. Whenever you put anything.
Just one last reference to that book. Have you guys seen the movie I Think We're Alone Now with Peter Dinklage?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh, it's okay. So it is a post-apocalyptic film where Peter Dinklage is the only person living in his town, and he is going to the library, putting things in order, like making notes, and it's like he's like trying to keep order in a world with nobody else. But then someone shows up, and so as every end of the world story, there's one person until someone knocks at the door. And so this person shows up, and you find out she's come from another area where there are survivors. But the survivors there, one of them, incredible performance by Paul Giamatti, who does maybe 20 minutes in the film, and you're just like, holy shit. He is from an area where you get this sense of boomers, because it's the apocalypse has happened, everyone's dead, but they've brought together these people to rebuild suburbs. And so as they drive through the neighborhood, you see people just like mowing their lawns and shit. It's just really weird. But they use this drug on the girl, and I can't remember who the actress is, just so that she doesn't remember the bad stuff. And that's what reminded me of this book, is they take the heart out just to remove the bad stuff so you never feel again. And that's the best way I can kind of explain that heart removal piece, because it's almost like a drug and in the movie. And that's the best way I've seen it, because it was like Paul Giamatti insists that like the things that have happened, we don't need to remember. And it's just such an unsettling way he delivers that in the movie.
I am, as you guys know, I'm not a huge post-apocalyptic fan, but I want to see this now solely on the idea that I know if I survived an apocalypse, I would be the guy going to the library organizing books. Like that would be my role.
Yeah.
I feel seen, and so I kind of want to go see this movie.
It is such a Gen X movie because I feel like I feel like you have this Gen X character who like grew up with the library and not the internet, and this is the thing he takes care of because this is the source of information that we had.
Yeah,
and
right.
Paul Giamatti is just this boomer of like, we can go live in the suburbs and mow our lawns and do bullshit, and he's just like. But he's lived alone.
An HOA in the post-apocalypse.
But that's the thing that's great. It's like he has this idea, and the girl that shows up is younger, so he wants to save her. But again, he has that Gen X attitude of like, we're all fucked. This is fucked. I'm just going to take care of myself. I'm used to living alone. I'm good. And then he kind of like, what are they doing to her? What has happened? And so, yeah, I really recommend that movie. It sits in my head a lot. I think we're alone now with Peter Dinklage.
Yeah.
So I think would I have to go save like the Apple Store and make sure that it's still like neatly organized after the apocalypse? Like I'm trying to think. The Starbucks? Make sure it's fully stocked.
You're like the one person saving avocado toast. I don't know.
Oh, my mortgage. Just kidding. All right, let's move on. Josh, you want to give us your first one?
Yeah. People that watch this show will not be surprised by any of my picks. I just want to stress. I kind of took a slightly different approach for a couple of these. Instead of just one title, I was really interested in how good this year was in kind of like setting up universes or kind of like big picture things. So my first one, for instance, is what I'm calling the EC revival. OniPress not bringing back EC titles. I think this is so important, but bringing back the aesthetic, the approach, the sensibility of what ECcomics were back in their heyday. Titles like Epitaphs from the Abyss or Cruel Universe took the original, horror and sci-fi approaches from EC and really understood what made those great, right? It wasn't just the art. It wasn't just the storytelling. It was the attitude. I think a lot of it was the social commentary, and they just fucking nailed it. Like, it's so good. I can't stress how good these books are. And I'm really interested in the fantasy one, which is that this month it comes out, or is it
Kingdom comes out next week? We have a preview for it also.
I'm excited about that because fantasy was something EC did not do. So I'm curious how they're going to take that, again, that tone and apply it to a subject area that EC was not known for. They're just so good. Again, various creators, writers, a who's who of just amazing talent. I mean, really, really good people on this. It's a fantastic series. And I know I put the Epitaphs from the Abyss collection on our comic book club list for Halloween. So
this was on my short list of like titles, but once I saw you put it on there, I was like, oh, okay, we'll just talk about it when Josh talks about it.
Sort of like I did with Fantastic Four with Jeff. So
yeah, I was very excited when this was announced because I'm not somebody that got to read a lot of EC comics. But I think one year for book club, we did like 50 girls stories?
Yeah.
You remember that? Which was very...
I still have it up there.
I still have mine right here.
I don't know if that was ECcomics, but it was definitely very EC coded.
I mean, it was
his would say.
EC.
But I love little anthologies where I could just dip in and out. The creators on this book are the 50 Girls 50. Yep. Yeah. The creators on these stories too, like there's some of my favorite writers and artists that are working on other stuff that I'm more rereading. And then I love the idea of like, let me pick up a book where I don't have to know anything. I'll get a cool story or like a cool splash page. They do like pinups and stuff. Well, they're not really pinups, but because they're horror related or fantasy related, but like just like a one page thing. I think Hack did some like interstitial things in there where I think that's the name of the artist. So like, yeah, it was really really cool, and I love the genre stuff, right? Like whether it's the more horror related with epithets or the more sci-fi with Cruel Universe, and I'm very much looking forward to this Cruel Kingdom because it's in the they describe it as dark fantasy, so like I feel like it's gonna be kind of a mix of a whole bunch of things. And then yeah, like it's these stories. If you don't like one of them, just go on to the next one. Like, I'll just drop this in here. The Hello Darkness series from Boom, which is very similar, is just a horror anthology. I would have put it all kind of all together. Anthologies are back, baby.
I've always been a fan.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I like that this is kind of beget. You're seeing more and more anthologies come through, like Hello Darkness, and then there's like the Conan books, and then the Penthouse Comics is back. Those are anthology books with way more nudity. I also kind of hope that this brings back, like, eventually we see things like Tales from the Crypt come back on TV and stuff like that, because a lot of that is like, based off of these things. And
I think Image started doing Creep Show as well too. Like I don't know if they paused for a while, but they brought it back last year. Yeah. So
there's been an ongoing Creep Show anthology on Shudder. So I hope that helps support more of those anthology, especially horror anthology types.
Yeah.
I do wonder. First off, I haven't looked into it. I hope sales have been good for these EC titles, but I do wonder if the resurgence of anthologies kind of goes back to what Jeff was saying about Fantastic Four, which is, are comic readers just burning out on these like 6-issue arcs? You have to read them all. Like, I just want a one and done. Just give me an issue I can read on the toilet, and when I'm finished, I'm finished. So.
Have I got a book for you, Josh? It's Ice Cream 43, where every story is just one page from a whole bunch of creators.
Oh, wow.
I had
Ice Cream 43, yeah.
I had this horrible suspicion that that comment's going to be clipped out, but anyway.
That's right. Already marked it. All right. Jeff, why don't you give us 2 of yours so we are all caught up, and then we'll go back around.
Okay, so I start off with I'll go Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey is my favorite comic right now, I think. It's tough. This is such a good year. And as you guys are talking, I'm like, I need to add this to my. So in real time, my honorable mentions list is getting longer. Birds of Prey, written by Kelly Thompson. I might have put it on the last year. A bunch of various artists as the title is continued, but Leonardo Romero, Javier Pina. Most of the comics are colored by Jordi Belair from DC Comics. But what I love about this book is that Kelly Thompson is so good at, again, just like Ryan North, capturing the characters, how these characters interact. Also, this is not unlike the Fantastic Four, where the 4 characters are. Like Birds of Prey kind of has Black Canary and Batgirl, and then it's just kind of a slew of everybody else, just whoever can kind of come in. So you get to see some real weird pairings. Like that first arc had HarleyQuinn and Big Barda, and
Zealot. Who writes a book with Zealot in it?
And Zealot, yeah. And she just keeps throwing in these kids. This latest arc had a couple of characters I don't know who they are, but it doesn't matter to me because they're just all so good. Yeah. All the comics are so good. They're so funny. They're all about empowering yourself and women and stuff like that. It's all that all that woke nonsense.
They're really funny too. Like the interactions.
They're so funny. The artwork is always solid, no matter who's doing the artwork. And I also like that there's smaller stories, not in the way that like they're single issues, because they're all like 5 or 6. She's writing for the trades, but it's not like the world's going to end. It's like
Yeah.
we need to go rescue these people, kind of thing. It's these smaller, more intimate kind of action stories that are really good.
And they're experimenting with really fun concepts, like the arc where they go through like these different universes or worlds or whatever, where each issue is done by a different artist with a purpose, as opposed to the first arc. I remember there was a fill-in artist that their art was very good. It just did not fit with the series and what Romero had set up.
Oh, yeah.
But then they brought in Pina, and I'm like, why couldn't you have Pina do it? Because his Pina style is so much, it's very similar to Romero. And that's, if you can't, I understand you can't have the same artist for all the issues with the time, with the deadlines that a monthly book has. But at least give me an artist that has the same vibes. Kind of like, I don't want to spoil anybody's list, so hold on. Let me check.
Kirby could have done it. That's all I'm saying.
Kirby did a lot. I guess I was gonna say like Transformers. I don't think that's on anybody's list. But like they have 3 different artists. But do they have 3 different artists? Like they're very similar, right?
Yeah.
Corona and Warren Johnson and.
I mean, it's very clear when they brought in the artist to replace Johnson, so he could just write. They got someone who is Johnson adjacent. I mean, he's and very good. Don't get me wrong. That's not a knock.
No. They have their own intricacies, and I think they have their own things where they are better at than each other, which is really fun to see.
But from a kind of visual aesthetic and tone, it was seamless. You just went from one to the other. You never noticed really that the art had changed.
Yeah, like I love both Jim Lee and Tualote, but I would not want to see one issue done by Jim Lee and then the next one done by Tualote. Right?
Exactly.
Like my brain would fry.
Which was kind of what happened. Wow, this is.
Here comes another clip.
Yeah, well, no, but like on Starman, right? When Harris stepped off of the interior, and they kind of struggled to find people to bring in, and they brought in, I forget his name, a guy that had worked on Sandman as well, and he was fine, but he was not Tony Harris, and it really stood out. Like he just
they brought in Eric Larson. The complete opposite.
Wow.
That would have been wow.
That would have changed the tone of the book.
Jesus, yeah.
Why is he so sexy now? I don't understand. All right. Any last thoughts on Birds of Prey?
Nope, I love it.
Okay. Well, then
that's gonna be my last thought for every single book.
Here was the next
my
one.
next
We'll
book.
go back around.
Frankenstein. I really loved Frankenstein.
That was also going to be on my list.
That was a great read.
Frankenstein from Image Skybound, written and drawn by Michael Walsh, with colors by Tony Mary Griffin and letters by Becca Carey. Skybound, Image Skybound has been producing all the Universal Monster books. They've got Dracula, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein. And Frankenstein, I did not read Dracula. I hear it's good. Daniel loves it.
Oh, so good.
I read The Creature from the Black Lagoon. It was good. It was fine. It was fine.
I think that one is fun if you're like a real big fan of the movie and you want to see more of that. I think that's its main issue, that it wasn't kind of like a standalone story. It's really a sequel to the movie.
Yeah, exactly. This one kind of retells the story, the Universal movie Frankenstein story, not the novel, but it's from the different perspectives of how like the creature gets its body parts. So and how we actually follow this little kid whose dad was dug up by Frankenstein to steal the heart or whatever it was.
The brain, I think that was the first one. Right?
It was the brain.
Oh, the hand.
Right.
You're right.
It was the hand. Yeah, but then we go through and we do see like where the eyes come from and like how it affects everything. It's just such a good. The artwork is some of the best artwork I've seen all year, honestly.
Yeah, really.
And if you've seen the movie, I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but I did read the book. It's earlier this year, so I was like, well, it's different. It's definitely different from the book.
Very different.
Yeah, but then the movie is also so,
Yeah.
or the original movie is. So yeah, I loved it. I loved it. You still get all the major points from the movie, all the major beats from the movie.
Yeah.
So you see where Frankenstein meets the little girl by the river, and and stuff like that. But
What
yeah,
happens?
the artwork is fantastic. Flowers, mostly just flowers.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That explains how Frankenstein gets his flowers in the movie. That's the backstory.
Yeah, flowers. Really pretty scene.
I wonder if the pitch was Michael Walsh went to like, I don't know who, Image Skybound, and it was like Robert Kirkman was like, what if we told a Frankenstein story from the point of view of the body parts? And you're like, what the hell does that mean?
That's a great pitch. I mean, I'd immediately be like, fuck yeah.
I mean, we know the brain came from Abby Normal, so
Normal,
it's just the rest of the body
right.
parts that you know about.
Cool. Very cool. Well, I mean, if you like Michael Walsh, go check out The Silver Coin, which is an anthology that he drew everything, but different writers wrote every story.
That's the Michael Walsh. I have like the Chip Zdarsky one.
There's like 2 volumes or 3 volumes of it with like 12 issues or so. It's a small anthology, but it's really cool.
Also kind of an anthology series.
It's a combination of the epithets and the Frankenstein because Michael Walsh just drew all of it. So I don't know how he does so much.
It's like his own ice cream man.
Yeah.
It does like I'm kind of hyped about the upcoming Mummy series because that's my second favorite. But Frankenstein sets a high bar for that, a really high bar. So I'm kind of curious how they're going to approach it.
I really need to get Jeff to read Dracula.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess you just have to read it when we do our vampires episode. We were talking.
Oh, there we go. That's perfect.
Sorry, Jeff.
I'm sure it's out in trade. It's got to be out in trade by now, right?
We have it's on box too, like the full trade. It's
okay. Oh, well then I'll go read it then.
Okay. Cool. Let me do one of mine, and then I think we're not caught up, so we should be able to just go around the horn. I'm going to talk about AvengersTwilight.
Okay.
This is the book written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Daniel Acuna, letters by Corey Petit, of course, published by Marvel Comics. This is the Dark Knight Returns for the Avengers, and I mean, for the most part, obviously it's different because it's the Avengers and not Batman, a brooding Dark Knight. But man, following it's interesting because it's like, what if you put Captain America, Steve Rogers in the Dark Knight story? It's a completely different tone right from the get-go, right? That's what this book is. And it's full of really cool mystery and twists and turns and how the team kind of is assembled, like all these years later, who's still around and what are they doing? And then, like Captain America not having his powers for a little while. It's fun to explore that because obviously he's still the same person, but he can't do the same things. But I think what I really loved here, not only the story was great, Acuna's art and vision for this possible future, it's out of this world. Like, Acuna does both the art and colors, and I understand why he had to do that because it is some insane, trippy, really like futuristic, cool-looking stuff.
It's a cyberpunk almost type neon that exists around the comic characters.
Yeah, but they normally when we look at some of the cyberpunk aesthetic in the future, it's all more like the dark alleys and the markets. This one's not. This is like the suburbs and the big cities, and then you get to see like what would those look like? What does New York? What does downtown New York? What does Times Square look like in this future? What does Washington D.C. look like in this future with all the, and then like the gadgets? But then you do have to go into like the underbelly of this world. Because that's where the rebellion is, and then there were some really cool twists and turns and revelations of like what's happening and what happened on this H day, right, where they hinted something but it was something completely different. That I guess I should have put together But I'm not. I don't read 3 steps ahead like a lot of people. I was just kind of vibing with the moment.
Well, I read it too, and I really enjoyed the first 3. Like I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
see, this is great. I just felt like the ending didn't nail it for me as much because I had such high expectations for it. But I do agree, like it is a great book to see these future versions and the twisted way that America could become very quickly.
Could be. That's kind of one of those things where I'm like, you read the book and then as you start reading, you're like, this is not that far off from where we are today. Like it's honestly, you're just getting constantly.
If you remove the technology aspect of it, if we at least had all that technology. Then
it opens with like someone wanting to take a selfie, and that's a crime. So that kind of sets you like you can't even take a picture of yourself that without it being illegal. So that kind of tells you what kind of world we're in.
It depends where you are. Maybe that's the law.
Yeah, I was gonna say, were they using a selfie stick? Because if so, that should be a crime.
Yes.
God,
no, in the future.
Go. We just decided our arm is long enough, huh?
Cameras got better. You just
I guess so. I guess you can zoom out now. Yeah. But yeah, I'm Avengers Twilight. So, any other thoughts? Did you guys read it, Jeff, Josh? Did you guys read Avengers Twilight?
I did. I really liked it. I'm a little with Clay on the back half of it. I kind of. I was like, okay, well, Red Skull, spoilers. Sorry, it's always Red Skull.
Right.
It's
I know you think it's like Nepo kid is the bad guy the whole time. You're like, it's just these fucking Nepo kids in the future just using their parents' inventions to do cool shit.
Yeah. But Daniel Acuna's artwork is just it's so good. Like I remember. Like I don't know where he got to start, but I definitely remember him being in like the Bendis Avengers run when he would pop up there, and then he did Remender's X-Force stuff,
Uncanny X-Force,
Uncanny X-Force, and I'm just like, oh god, all that stuff, like even to all the way up through today, I'm just like, that guy is just a genius.
Because he was after Clayton Crane, right? Like,
that
was the first iteration of the X-Force, and then Acuna took over in the uncanny version of it. But yeah, really cool stuff. I really like that series.
And it's Chip Zdarsky, so it's also kind of funny and stuff. It's got good pacing and stuff.
Good conversations too. The characters have like interesting.
I
he's really good at capturing voices for most of the characters.
When Cap and Kamala's interaction is one of the best because you realize what he's doing and how it affects other people and what she could do and how it would affect, just that discussion of like, hey, if I do this, my world falls apart.
Well, you guys are selling me on this, and I will point out it is currently only $4 for the Kindle version.
It's worth that. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely worth it.
Or check your library too if you don't want to spend $4 on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Clay, we're back to you.
I'm going to go to an actual comic, just a standalone. This was the wedding special from XMen here with Destiny and Mystique getting married, and a giant retcon for Nightcrawler, which I was just the biggest fan of. He has such the darkest origin, and I believe it was originally Chris Claremont wrote that, and he wrote it in an X-Men. Oh my God, what were the X-Men classified? Were the ones that were the reprints that had the
yes,
X-Men Classics,
X-Men Classics, yeah,
and so I believe it was a story by Claremont in there where it showed Mystique on the run. She had a baby, and she throws the baby off a cliff, and that is Nightcrawler, and it is
yeeted it, baby.
Yeah. Just so dark, and it's so funny because her action figure comes with the baby Nightcrawler.
I love it.
Oh my! Wow.
Yeah,
there are these two girls on TikTok. One does cosplay as Mystique, the other one is Destiny, and they have this little baby doll that they've painted blue, and they just go around throwing that baby on TikTok. So funny, so specific.
That's amazing.
Due to like music and stuff, but they're just beating the F out of this baby. It's just so funny.
Oh my god, that's
I
hilarious.
know, man. I like always want to know, like, Claremont, where were you when you came up with this fucking idea of throwing a baby? Like, is that the darkest thing next to maybe his Carol Danvers story in
Frank
Avengers?
Miller's Sin City already come out? Because they throw babies there too.
No.
I don't think so. That was like
Then
that was
did Frank
early.
Miller read that Marvel classic and you're like, a Spartan would do this.
Is this little bit of lore evidence that Claremont did cocaine? I'm really genuinely curious.
I don't know.
We'll never tell.
Yeah. That'll be a great question at a fan expo. Hey, how much
Yes, exactly.
how much coke did you do to write some of this?
Listen, we're at the Marvel's bullpen in the 70s. There's got to be some around.
There's absolutely some cocaine going around. Yeah.
Check the drawers, like look around.
My favorite. So there's that. I'm sorry, Clay. I didn't mean to interrupt. But
no, go
there's that All the Marvels book that just talks about the history of Marvel Comics.
Yeah,
maybe it's that one. I forget which one. But there's one where they talk about how in the 70s, like people in the bullpen would just do acid and walk around New York for hours on end.
I think that was Marvel Comics: The Untold Story.
Oh, that's it. Okay, yeah. But they just talk about how they just did acid and just would walk around the financial district and stuff.
I'm gonna need a time machine. I want to go work there.
Yeah.
Just during that time period. Who else read?
They were talking about Steranko and stuff like that.
Oh well, he seems like he would be involved. Did anyone else read this?
I read that. It's the one that has all the invitations, right? Like each little story. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I enjoy so much about it is the vibe, because you go from the original story of this, mother who's on the run throwing her baby off the cliff to a retcon of Mystique is the father of Nightcrawler because she has shape-changing powers. And so I guess that means she can change her organs to make a child with a woman, which is wild, but it's a mutant. So why don't, no one's thought of that since her origin. And that Destiny is Nightcrawler's mother, which makes me curious if he has any of her powers. It's never been touched on, but now that they've done that, they could give him some sort of psychic future seeing powers. I don't know. It's interesting. It just opens up more doors, but I love when a retcon is really good. And the whole story is positive as opposed to the original story of throwing a baby. you have this beautiful story of people coming together, cleaning it up. And it's just so joyous. Like even Nightcrawler is just so joyous in this book.
Yeah.
And that I believe is peak Krakoa. I think that was really what Hickman wanted to show is like, once you have a community of like-minded people who share the same things, there can be joy and happiness throughout it all without judgment from external sources. But when you lose Krakoa, what does that mean? Kind of thing. But probably one of my favorite books from the Krakoa era.
The Wolverine bit with the students was probably some of the most heartfelt stuff that I read in 2024. It was really, really good. It was just a really well done one shot, and everybody loves a wedding. So I mean,
I think you should go out and try to collect all the wedding issues of the X-Men that have happened over the years. So
they get married too often. That's impossible.
The North Star wedding issue. Did they ever finish? How does Nightcrawler get out of being thrown off the cliff? Did he bamf out, or did he just like
he's found by his mother, his stepmother that raises him with Rogue in the circus
sticking out of his head?
Yeah, it's just like he's found.
He could have bamfed to safety,
I like to think that he
didn't
hit a tree
happen
branch and then a tree branch and kind of like yeah. And then he kind of softly landed in some brush somewhere,
Oh man, I'm glad they didn't shoot that in a movie. That would have been such a dark story to
Alan
tell.
Cumming would have had trouble with that part.
What, playing a baby?
Yeah, play the baby. All right.
He could just look like his character in the Flintstones with his head on a tiny body. He played the Great Gazoo.
Oh my god! Wow.
Like Hugh Grant in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah,
those things.
Okay, Josh, you want to give us your next one?
Sure. Again, kind of keeping in the same vein. I want to talk a bit about again, it's come as no surprise to anyone who joins us regularly. The Conan crossover, Battle of the Black Stone. I will say, so I read the final issue, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. I don't really feel like it stuck the landing. It felt, I think, as with a lot of these, it felt rushed at the end, which kind of bugged me. But I do want to at least applaud them for an innovative approach to a crossover in something that is not just your standard Marvel DC crossover, right? This crossed over in multiple comics. So the regular actually it spun off of the regular Conan book for maybe the first 2 or 3 storylines. There was a whole issue of their magazine, Savage Sword of Conan, they brought back, that is dedicated to setting up the storyline. It was a 4-issue miniseries, and of course the novel that came out, which I just finished like a week ago. And again, I feel like as a crossover as an entity, it's interesting because you really don't need to experience everything. I was kind of let down by the novel, which is much more like sprinkled with little references here and there, but it's not like a big, it absolutely ties into, like, I guess, spoiler, the Black Stone never appears in the novel, which is just, yeah, I know, it's weird. It's very weird. But the novel is still good. I enjoyed it. I read the whole thing. But I do want to applaud them. So Heroic Signatures is the entity now that has all the Robert E. Howard IP. And I feel like they're doing a really good job of trying to experiment in different formats, but also with really obscure characters. Like, I never knew El Borak. There is a, like, French musketeer woman that I never heard of before. That's, you know, in this crossover. So I feel like if anything, it's a successful way of introducing more of Howard's characters, but tying them in a way that is compelling. So if you only know Conan, you can totally go into this and you'll come out of it with knowing more characters to kind of go experience. So
I also read the crossover, just the comics, like the free comic book day, and then the 4 issues.
The 4 issues.
And I agree with Josh. I think the fun part, like the first issue, is so much fun, just setting up like everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I don't know who this one is, but they look cool. Like, it's a cool character. It's a cool concept.
Yep.
And maybe this was their way. I think these are being published by TitanComics, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's their way to like test out the waters on maybe upcoming series with these characters, since they hold a license or whatever the case may be. So, and yeah, I don't know. Conan is just always kind of cool. Like, he gets a buff, right, from being just cool. Conan,
Yeah.
in any iteration. So it's when he's rolling for success or whatever the case may be, he's got a nice buff. So yeah, I'm always gonna go in, especially because I think they picked a really good artist for the crossover.
They did, yeah.
It looked fairly traditional, but it still had some layers of like, let's change things up a little bit because we're in different time periods and stuff. So, and
again, I would say the majority of it was written by Jim Zub.
Yeah,
and Zub just gets Conan in particular. Like, I think he's just really good at understanding what makes Conan fun and compelling. So
he gets fantasy so well because he does some of the Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, one of the two.
He did Pathfinder. He did both, actually.
Yeah, both, right? Yeah. He's a great writer, and I think he does like games and stuff too. So I'm glad. When I saw his name, I was like, I gotta check this out for sure. And then Josh recommended it because he's been reading all the Conan he didn't read. Well, Conan was a Marvel for so long, and Josh was like, no thanks.
Yeah, I know. Well, I did finally read that Savage Avengers, that last storyline where they wrote Conan out of it. I did read that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Jeff, let's go to your next one.
My next comic, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. I think there's a lot
so
of
good.
I was so
people's
glad
best
to see it on the
lists.
list because that means I didn't have to cut it from my list.
I initially I did not have it on my list because I thought it. I mean, it started like the year before, I think, and then the last few issues came out at the beginning of this year. But so it's by Patrick Hovarth. It's an IDW comic by Patrick, written and drawn by Patrick Hovarth. Letters by Hassan Otsmane Elau. Apologies if I got that wrong. Whole thing by Patrick Horvath. I always say that incorrectly as well. Horvath, yeah. So it's about it's everybody describes it as Dexter meets Richard Scarry's little cutesy little animal books kind of thing, and that's pretty much it.
That's really accurate.
It's a bunch of cute little anthropomorphized animals living in a city, just kind of going about their daily lives. Think of Stars Hollow, a la Gilmore Girls. So they're all kind of like these quirky little, people that live in this tiny little idyllic little town. Only one of them just happens to be a serial killer. But the serial killer has rules. She has rules. She doesn't kill anybody in town. She goes out away to the big city to kill a rando when she needs to, get it out of her system. And the whole story is set up is that she kind of has this life. Nobody knows what she does on the slide in secret until a second serial killer shows up and starts mucking things up and starts killing people in town. And so our hero serial killer has to go find out who the bad serial killer is. And there's kind of this genre that's making its way through comics of like seeing really cutesy things have terrible things happen to them, a la Stray Dogs and Feral and Dwellings, and this Beneath the Trees. And it's just, the artwork is so cutesy and gruesome, and the characters, like, you care about these characters. You don't want to see them get hurt because they're so cute and whatever. And then the bad people are genuinely terrifying because you're just like, it's like, I don't know, it'd be scary if Howard the Duck were to come after you with a knife or something. So it's kind of like one of those. I'm excited. There's a sequel coming out this year.
I didn't know
it's
that.
definitely it's yeah. I think I saw that there's a sequel. He's working on a sequel.
Yeah, Howard the Duck
I
comes
think
at you
it's
with
coming
a
out this year. I'm
sword.
pretty sure. Yeah, see, that would terrify me. I think it's definitely worth reading. It's just such a good comic all around. Yeah.
I also read this and I loved it. I read it serialized, which is wild because I don't know how I could hold month over month knowing what happened. And I think the art is so lovely until it doesn't. Like, you look at some of the covers. There's a cover where there's like a duck that's like vivisected in half, and you can see all the innards, and you're like, oh my god. And I think just the IDW is really pushing this series. I would not be surprised if this is already being like announced to be some kind of adaptation and live action, or well, I guess maybe live action.
It is better to be animated. Do not make this live action, and don't do the bullshit Disney live action.
Yeah, give you some Mufasa looking bear.
Yeah, exactly. No.
Yeah,
There's the hardback.
Yeah, I was, it's funny. I was trying to find the ebook of it, and it does exist, but I need to buy the collection because I read the first 2 issues.
Yeah,
and really liked it. And
really cool.
I don't know why I think I missed an issue and just.
And I think Horvath really manages to stick the landing, which is like hard to do when your book is so good from the like
Right.
I'm talking to you, Dexter. Yeah, so I really I can't wait to see where we go from here. And I one of the things I loved about it too was that at the beginning of every issue you would get like a recap in a newspaper, like the town newspaper style.
Mm-hmm.
Of like that was the credits page, but you would also get like a little bit of like what just happened and why everybody's freaking out. So there was that one character that did deserve it, but other than that,
one deserved it. Based on your judgment.
Yes, it would be what we call a Karen. So
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree. She deserved it. She deserved it.
so there you go.
She
Okay,
deserved.
let me go to speaking of killing and serial
Speaking of
killers
killing.
and being chased. I'm going to talk about my next book. Which is kind of two books, but it's released as one collection, so it counts. We make the rules here.
Yes. Our show, our rules.
Yeah, The One Hand and the Six Fingers, by ImageComics. This is written by Ram V. One series. The One Hand's written by Ram V. Dan Waters wrote the Six Fingers, and it's illustrated by Lawrence Campbell and Sumit Kumar, respectively. And so Image sent us the collection, which I think it's one of the best collected things that are out there. I want to go find this like physically, but I will buy it if it's a hardback book. I won't. I'll just wait because I know they're gonna put out a hardback. So I'll just wait for a hardcover. But yeah, it's like one of the books is like a Blade Runner detective style story, right? And the other book is like we're following this killer, and it's kind of like a Zodiac type of thing. But then the book gets really weird. The books are interconnected in the fact that it's all happening. It's two stories told from one is from the point of view of the detective, the other one's from the point of view of the killer. So like you very, very quickly you learn everything that you think you need to know. But as the book goes on and you start seeing things from one of the books cross over to the other one, it's very, very cool. I love the way this was collected. And the art is fantastic. I just really, really enjoyed exploring this book. I started reading it one night and I got through like maybe the first 6 issues, and I was like, I need to keep reading. So this is one of the books that I kind of try to cram in at the end of the year. But we read The One Hand #1 in the show earlier on. So I was very excited to kind of finish that story. I feel like if we had read the Six Fingers on the next show, everyone would have been hooked to kind of keep reading.
Yeah.
So hopefully now from there we can go on. But yeah, this was great. I really loved it. I highly recommend it. I mentioned Ram V was going to be on my list once again, and this is where he comes back. So I don't know if any of you guys kept reading here on this.
No, I wanted to though.
If not, we have the collection on our preview. So
I think we're missing one issue for some reason, and that's
I put the actual collection on the thing. So
perfect,
because that way you could just go through. Like they put it in. I talked about this I think last week or whenever I talked about this book earlier. Like they actually collected in the way it was released. So you get #1 from one series, #1 from the other series, as opposed to like one series and then you're like, well, what happened on the other half of this book or whatever. So yeah, it's very well done. Big shout out to the editor on this because they did a fantastic job kind of putting all this together. And I want to see, I mean, Dan Waters is also one of the writers that I'm like, I need more of these stories. Specifically that Batman, what is it, Darkness or Dark Waters that just came out. No, I don't think that's what it's called. But anyways, it's a new Batman book. It's pretty great, and it's also about a serial killer. So maybe they're making a comeback. Maybe they've never left.
Dark Age.
Yeah. No, I don't think. No, that's the one. The Mark Russell book. But
Dark Corners, I think. Dark Corner. Dark. I don't know.
Just keep throwing dark something. Dark titles.
Dark something. Hayden Sherman does.
Dark Matters. Dark Matters.
Dark Knight.
Yeah, the Dark Knight. Yeah, I'm just rereading the Dark Knight Returns. But it's really good. It's, I mean, can't blame me. All right, but yeah, that's it. So Clay, let's go to a year. I think this should be your last book, maybe.
Yeah, because we had Josh Trujillo on the show, and
yes, big show. We didn't even talk about our guest this year, but
I mean, we got to talk Blue Beetle. Had a Blue Beetle. Yeah. I mean, it was just awesome having him on here because he was such a fan too. So it's always nice to talk to people who are just coming from a writer's perspective. But he had done a book called Washington's Gay General, which is amazing. It's just the historical documentation. I'm usually not a fan of, like especially movie biopics, because they're so fake. I mean, any movie biopic you see out there about some famous person, you'll find someone who goes, they left out this section about him. They left out this. This actually uses a library that's, I believe, in San Francisco that helps retain LGBTQ history. And so he used that library to help do the research for Washington's Gay General. It's done really well. It's drawn really well. It's the documentation is the best part of it, because I love that it's based on a lot of facts. If he gets into areas where he's not sure, he even mentions it in the book. But I think it's perfect. I think schools should have it so that they should read it in schools. Texas probably won't allow it, and we probably won't see it through the next administration. But I think this is a really great historical book about America.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I mean, I enjoyed having Josh Trujillo visit on the show. I think that was one of the highlights of last year. But when he talked about this book, because we did a little bit of research, and as I was doing that, I was like, oh, I've never read this book. And he told us about it and kind of how it came to be. I'll put a link to that episode on the comments after this, because it's a really insightful. I mean, we talked a lot about other stuff too, but you know, he gave us a little bit of insight on how a book like this comes about, because it's not something that this isn't superhero stuff, right? So it's like it's probably a hard sell already. So I'm glad that it got done, and I'm glad there's stuff out there. You can borrow from, I know it's on Hoopla for sure.
Yeah, it is.
That's where I read it. But yeah, you should go check it out. You know, check out your local comic shops and stuff. But I'm very glad that he brought that to our attention when we talked to him. And go read Blue Beetle.
Excellent job, producer.
Yeah,
that guest.
Yeah,
and of course I wasn't there for that episode.
Well, we could only have one Josh at a time.
That is true. Yeah. Two Joshes.
Listen.
Yeah,
Josh was being a family man and playing daddy and husband to his wife, and just, you know, spending time with others.
Nothing against Josh, the art historian, but if I have to pick between Josh, the writer of Blue Beetle, and Josh, the art history teacher.
Hey, if I have to pick between those, I'm gonna go with Trujillo too. So.
Speaking of Josh,
who do you pick between Josh Trujillo and Josh Duhamel? So that's, you know, who's your favorite of all time? All the Joshes.
I'll pick Timothy Oliphant.
Timothy Oliphant.
My favorite Josh is from Clueless.
Oh yeah, good one.
Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd.
What does she say? I'm totally in love with Josh.
Oh my God!
Who made the weirdest, most lamest sandwich on the counter in that movie?
Yes. Speaking of Paul Rudd, have you guys seen the trailer for Death of a Unicorn?
Yes.
So good.
That cast looks amazing.
The cast is unbelievable. And can we just give props to more Téa Leoni in our lives? Like, she shows up in the last episode of Only Murders, and she's in this, and I'm like, yes, fucking finally. I need more Téa Leoni.
She was one of my first crushes after watching Bad Boys.
Oh, yeah. She is quite the prostitute in that movie.
That's a clip. All right. Great. Keep them coming, guys. Well, my segue is not as natural this time because I don't want to say, speaking of prostitutes, but Josh, what else is on your list? What's the last item on your list?
Yeah, boy, yeah, what a segue. So my last one, again, I really went with kind of like this big picture stuff. I just want to give props to the slow, deliberate rollout of the EnergonUniverse. Yes. I feel like if they had just said, boom, here's GIjoe #1, it may have crashed and burned. But to take, God, what, 2 years? Has it been 2 years? To take 2 years to shock us with Void Rivals, that first issue, to in a very deliberative way, build up these mini-series of Cobra Commander, Destro, Scarlet, Duke, and introduce us to these characters. GIjoe #1 felt earned. And I don't think there's a lot of companies these days that allow that to happen anymore. And I just want to give huge props to Skybound, Image, every creator working on those books, including the Transformer ones, because they didn't just say, we've got the IP now, let's just do a cash grab. They really thought about it. And just incredible. So good.
Yeah.
In a way, they got to do have their cake and eat it too, because GIjoe is very much a Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're going to build the pieces up to get to GIjoe. But Transformers is like, bang, you are there. Transformers starts, so you're getting both.
Yes, true. But also, I kind of feel like you had to have Transformers do that to make the GIjoe side work, because again, Duke is haunted, right? What happened? And so again, everything feels very meticulous, and I love that about it. So
as I was going back through last year's stuff, I looked into, because I was like, Transformers seems like it's been going on for a while, and it was on our last year's best of, but it's still consistently been good. And that's the best part, because it's like, oh, we're going to drop in another title, and then we're going to have this, and then we're going to have certain teams that you don't expect team up. And I mean, I think it all is held together by that great Transformers book.
Yeah, but to your point, Jeff, which I think is so good, you're right. They were able to say, with Transformers, we're just going to have one title and we're just going to run with it, right? And then with GIjoe, we're going to kind of do these things, and I don't know if that's a lore situation, which is Transformers, you're kind of thrown into it in media res, right? Like, the plot has been going on for so long. So you're just kind of thrust in, whereas GIjoe's about building a team. And so you had to kind of get these very specific characters and their backstories. So I don't know. It's great.
I can't wait till Scarlet joins somewhere somehow.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah,
she's off in her own series, and then of course we know that Storm Shadow's out there too. So there's still so many surprises that they can bring that are out. We know are out there because we saw them in some other series and stuff like that. And I think putting the Baroness on the GIjoe book and / team, I was like, what is happening? So
and Void Rivals, I think, is kind of the one that gets forgotten in all of it sometimes. But if you've been reading along, I think it's slowly, low key becoming like the most important book, because there's a lot of things that are happening. You're starting to see the threads start to pull together in Void Rivals finally. Yeah,
it's like the space part of Transformers now that the portals have closed in the Transformers book.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have to do a Megatron series at some point so that we know. There's been hints of Megatron all over these books.
Yep.
But we need to know exactly. I think the free comic book day, if you read it, has like a catch-up story of like what he's been doing from the beginning.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Shit. All right, I'll have to download it.
Because
he's like running around.
Yeah, that's why they reprinted it and resold it, because they knew people were gonna want it. They slap on a different cover, and there you go.
I know Image won't do this because it's not financially a smart move, but I would really love, instead of all these trades of all the different mini series leading up to it, just a big omnibus pre GIjoe, and it's just like the Destro series, Cobra Commander, Duke, Scarlet, just give us all of them in one.
I would say Destro was probably the weakest title, but even being weak, it was still it's still worth reading.
Yeah,
and only because those twins are so confusing. Tomax and Zomat or whatever. Yeah,
Tomax and Zaymot.
The
names are spelled backwards. It's
the
same name but backwards.
I did. The strong part of that title to me was Destro's family origins and how his legacy and why he is Destro.
Well, and I think also it had to do the heavy lifting of explaining how do we get Cobra Commander and Destro together.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of what made it not as good. Is I think it was doing a lot of just kind of lore exposition, how do we put all the pieces together? So
Destro's definitely we got to get the Red Guard and Cobra and all these places together, kind of thing. That's kind of what it is.
I do
list.
find it funny we have the Dreadnoughts but no Zartan yet, and I'm really curious to see when we get Zartan. So
Yeah,
that was my favorite action figure as a kid. Putting those faces on, so much fun.
Splashing water on them.
Yeah,
somebody that doesn't know much of GIjoe, like I'm very excited to explore this universe because I never really watched the cartoon. I haven't seen any, like I've only seen the live action movies. Which, fun fact, the second one was directed by JohnMChu, director of Wicked.
What?
When I found that out, it blew my mind.
Oh
there's that scene where The Rock goes,
Yeah.
After that fucking shitty movie, nobody should have gotten work. That movie was fucking. And then they go, here, take Wicked.
Because JohnMChu did a lot of the Step Up movies, which had Channing Tatum, one of them. So why would you get rid of the Channing Tatum character in your movie? That doesn't make sense. Anyway.
I just find it so funny because the cast in the GIjoe, which I haven't seen either of them, the cast is good. I mean, for fuck's sake, you got basically Chris Eccleston to leave Doctor Who to go be in a GIjoe movie. You got what's his face from Herbrock?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
And then they cover him up and put the shit mask on him. The whole plot of that movie is fucking stupid because they build this device to do something that sell it and they're going to get it back, but don't know how to use it. So they have to kidnap this guy to do it. And it's like, well, then how did you make the device in the first place? Like, it's just and I know I'm expecting a lot from a GIjoe movie, but just a plot that I can follow that makes sense. But all those movies were shit. They were terrible. And Bruce Willis is even in one. They didn't know how to use him.
In the second one, yeah. Well, he's
a Joe.
He's Joe.
He's Joe. Which is weird because I thought, which is funny because like obviously we follow Duke, but the team's called GIjoe. So, anyways, convoluted stuff. I can't wait to see what the current iteration does because they are crossing them over with Transformers. So interesting that we haven't heard anything from that. Go watch Beast Wars and stay for the end credit scene. And go watch Wicked.
Or just go on YouTube and watch the end credit scene.
Oh, real quick before we go on to the next one, this needs to be addressed. Matthew Moore in the chat.
Breaking news.
The HarleyQuinn Fart comic. So I think that comes out in February.
Yeah, it's not. It's
actually, I had it in. I got one of the previews.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but you better believe, Matthew, that I'll be doing a review for that. And we'll be talking about it.
Will the book be scratch and sniff?
It is. I think it is. It is a smelly. I think they on the advertisement they say you can scratch and sniff it.
I just
what
feel like
would be the Marvel counterpoint to a Harley fart book?
A Deadpool fart book.
Too easy.
Yeah.
I was going for the Blob. I was hoping somebody would see that.
Oh, gross! No, that's a sharp book. That's
the fart that comes out has been trapped in his body for like 4 years before it escapes because he's so large.
I want to do like a man thing. A man thing smell.
No, see, okay. Here's the thing. Blob is fine. It's Juggernaut you got to worry about. Because that suit just holds it all in, you know?
Does Juggernaut have to smell his own farts all the time?
I bet so. It just seeps up.
Yeah.
Wait, no, then Rhino.
Oh, Rhino. Yeah, you're right. I think Rhino's the worst. Yeah.
At least Juggernaut has those vents to,
Yeah, but those vents are right here.
Let some of the steam out.
Have they ever acknowledged Rhino has an ass flap? Like, how does he poop?
We'll have to ask the Beyonder if he ever showed him. If Spider-Man ever showed him.
I like how somehow the Beyonder knows that. You know who knows that? The Watcher. And that really puts a whole different spin on the Watcher at that point.
That's the what if that we should have gotten.
Right.
What if the Rhino could poop?
I'll write it.
All right. But then you got to drop in Armadillo part of that too, because Armadillo has that shell that just covers his back. Because him and Rhino are both kind of created by the same construct, right? That they were going to be turned into these things and had body parts put on top of them, or were they morphed into it? I can't remember the specific current origin of either.
Oh, the current. I was gonna say classic Organic Rhinos. I think he just put that suit on, right?
I don't know how Paul Giamatti got in there.
God, Paul Giamatti's Rhino is better than the fucking Craven Rhino. The thing that blows my mind is we were watching Nosferatu, and I'm watching Aaron Taylor Johnson, and I go, this guy's so good. And he was in Craven. He's so good in this, but
he dominated December at the box office. All right.
You know things are bad when the director of Craven, before the movie comes out, is pleading with people to go see it. He's like, no, really, it's a good movie. Yeah, that doesn't convince me.
That's just me. I don't know. I don't think it'll be on my top 10 when we talk about it next week or whatever. But
if a guy who had made the GIjoe movies was pleading to go see Wicked, that would make more sense, because I'd be like, I've seen your GIjoe. I don't want to see anything you do.
But I've also seen your Step Up movie, so like, you know.
Oh my God, I have to tell you, okay, because we've already, gone on a fart tangent, I have to share this story. Shelby works with a bunch of younger kids, and she got a question one day about the rap scene back in the 90s between the West Coast and East Coast, and they asked Shelby, was that a real thing? And she was like, well, yeah, it was. And she goes, I just thought it was something from the Step Up movies.
I mean, it was there too.
Step Up, teaching America's kids about rap.
That's humor on multiple levels, because if I want to find out something about the rap scene in the 90s, Shelby's not the first person that comes to mind. But I guess they also have limited resources.
Well, that leads you to, because she manages Half Price Books and she sees all
the
different genres and stuff.
Alive, then pretty much.
But then I have to. She has to take a lot of movies that get filed in the wrong place. Like This Is Spinal Tap will be in the documentaries.
That's funny.
It's just stuff like that. And then she had to take a CD out of the religious one. And then she was talking to the person that did it. And she's like, oh, well, it just looks like he looks like a very religious person. And it was a Notorious B.I.G. CD. Sitting in religion. So it's like the kids really don't get the music.
He's dressed up like in a choir gown. So I could
forget.
see.
No, it wasn't that one. I'll find the.
Now, if the kids these days really knew their facts, they would put MC Hammer in religion, because he is a bona fide preacher now. So
very true.
Or Run.
That's where Al Green goes as well.
Yeah,
Al Green, Reverend Al Green.
Oh boy! All right, we'll circle back.
Polyphonic Spree.
Let's wrap up these best of. Jeff, you want to give us your last one, and then we'll come back. Save it. We definitely want to know which movie it was.
Real quick, I did on one of my honorable mentions to build off of Josh's was Cobra Commander by Joshua Williamson, but they just made Cobra Commander so unhinged, but still carry the kind of vibes from his 80s cartoon, where he's still he's arrogant, reckless, but this one is unhinged and scary on top of that. So I loved the Cobra Commander miniseries. My last best of for this year is what I think is the best Ultimate comic from Marvel, is UltimateSpiderMan, written by Jonathan Hickman with art by Mark Cicchetto and other people, David Messina. All I'm going to say is J. Jonah Jameson and Uncle Ben make the perfect pairing in comics right now. This is an alternate universe Spider-Man, so Uncle Ben is still alive. However, Aunt May is no longer with us. But Uncle Ben and J. Jonah Jameson start their own newspaper media thing together. And it's just like watching the best two grumpy old men just kind of navigate their way through life, trying to expose. They're like Woodward and Bernstein of this comic universe. For a Spider-Man comic, there's not a lot of Spider-Man in it, but that's kind of the crux of the whole Ultimate universe, is that these are heroes that had their hero-ship taken away from them, and so they're just kind of learning how to be heroes again. So it's not the most action-packed Spider-Man, but the character, again, all my picks are like, when you nail the characters, you've got me hooked. So Peter Parker is back together with MJ in this, and he's a competent Peter Parker. He's still learning about his spider powers and stuff like that, but he just seems a little bit more, because he has a family around him and stuff, he seems a bit more sure of himself, as opposed to our normal 616 Peter, who's 84 years old and still can't hold down a job or whatever. But this Peter, and then his surrounding characters, everything's just a little bit different from what we know, obviously. But I just love that the artwork is so great. It's so funny. Hickman doesn't get a lot of credit for how funny he is, but he's very funny. And ultimately, J. Jonah Jameson and Uncle Ben make that comic for me. It's just so much fun to watch them go back and forth and argue and stuff. It's great.
I agree. I love that book too. My only qualm with it is that I want more Marco Cicchetto. Like, I like the other artists. There's been one fill-in artist that was not my favorite, but everyone else, I think it's pretty. I think Pacino really works. But yeah, other than that, I love it. I love the family aspect of it. Like, everyone is involved in this. I love the relationship with Harry and Peter. And obviously, like, in my head, I'm like, he's his enemy, but like, not here. He's the Green Goblin. Well, maybe he is, but they're friends here. So it's been really fun. And then you see other characters, and you're like there's already been mentions of a Daredevil. And I'm like, ooh, when are we getting our ultimate Daredevil, right? Like, just all those little things that Hickman's really good at, like, setting up all these little things in the world, and the ticking clock of like, well, the Maker's coming back in a few months. So yeah, it's really, really good. The issue number 12, we didn't even see Spider-Man in it.
No.
I think so, maybe like towards the end there was one little bit but other than that, yeah, it was fantastic stuff. I really, really loved it. And the only reason I put the Ultimates above it is because I feel like it does a lot of the same things very well, but it's also building out the rest of the universe of the and that issue 4 of the Ultimate just blew my mind with Felnato.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
So okay, let me go on to my last issue, and then we'll wrap up with some honorable mentions. It could only be AbsoluteBatman. Like, it is just a refreshing take on Batman. And just when I thought, like, well, you can't really redo Batman, maybe not somebody that's already done such an epic Batman, in my opinion, like Scott Snyder coming back to retell another story of Batman that is completely different. Man, I love this book. I love all the Absolute series, but this one, just, to me, it's the Batman bias, right? Nick Dragotta, fantastic. Like, the way he's drawn this Batman, which is like just like this massive beast of a man. The origin and spoilers for issue 1, like, his mom is alive, and I've never seen, like, we've never had time to explore
Martha
relationship with Martha. Yeah, why did you say that name? Right? We've never had the time to explore their relationship. He's not rich; he's just a regular person. His friends, because he grew up like a regular person, are poor, I guess. His friends are all the people that we know as his rogue villain category, like his villains. As we grow up, yeah, just such a cool take on it. And of course, they've set up a few things for the long run, but like, even just this first arc, and we're only, I think, 3 issues into it for the 2024, and it's still just really, really kicking ass, and I love it. I'm very excited. I have so many copies of that book all over the place. They keep reprinting new printings, and the variants are really cool. I just really love this Absolute world, but Batman, to me, stands a little bit above. And Wonder Woman's great, and Superman's also very good, but this one kind of stands above a little bit. So, yeah, I love it. You guys been reading Absolute Batman? Did you guys check out the first one? You need to check out at least the first one, Josh. We need to get you.
All right. Well, I have been so not interested in DC's. Like, I can't figure out, like, what is All In? What is Absolute? Like, none of it makes any sense to me. And I've kind of stepped away from it because I feel like DC is so bad at just constantly putting these, like, titles on their titles. And I just look at them like, what the fuck is All In? Like, I don't know. I didn't understand the last one. Like, I don't get it. So, anyway.
Well, if you feel like Josh, we have a great video on the channel where I explain everything that happened in Absolute Power and what happened in the All In special and what all that is.
I do need to watch it. Yeah.
So if you're ready to take the plunge,
okay, good. As long as there's an explanation out there for dum-dums.
Yeah, I'm sure I was the only person on the internet that came up with the idea to explain this whole world.
I will look at no other.
I like about Absolute Batman. So who's the actor that plays Jack Reacher that is not Tom Cruise, but the big guy that
Andy,
Alan
Rickson, I think.
Something. Anyway, so there was a big push to have him be Batman for a while. And it feels almost like they based this Absolute Batman on his body type because this guy's so big and hulking or whatever. I enjoy the Absolute Batman titles. They're pretty good. Speaking of the All In, Max started showing AEW wrestling finally on Max, and so I started watching it for the first time forever. And because AEW wrestling is also owned by Warner Brothers, there's a lot of weird cross promotion. So the skirt and all the advertising when I first started watching is about DC All In.
Yeah.
So like the skirt for the ring is shows both the Absolute Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, and then the normal Batman. And it's so weird to go back in time and kind of look at that. I'm just like,
when those air live, they had a commercial for Absolute Wonder Woman, a TV commercial play during Dynamite, and that blew my mind. Because I don't remember seeing a commercial for a comic since like Capullo and Scott Snyder were doing like Death in the Family or something like that back in the day. So
bring back commercials for comics. Yeah.
All right, let me give you guys some honorable mentions. I won't be too long, and then we'll go around see if you guys have any honorable mentions, and then we'll move on to our next thing. Another thing that I recommend, Hexagon Bridge. I read that collection very close to the end of the year, and I really love the book. It's very beautiful and gorgeous, and I don't have the credits at hand. Apologies. Also, Tom King's and Paul Gross's Animal Pound.
Oh,
it's hard to read because the times that we live in.
Right.
But it's a very good, if you if you're interested in things like Animal Farm or George Orwell's 1984 or anything that warns you about the world and what it's there to be to.
But show me a Tom King jam that doesn't involve in some way the phrase "it's kind of difficult to read."
So. Yeah, but most of them are about relationships, and I'm like, well, whatever. As long as
true.
Well, that's not gonna affect me. But this one hits home. But it's really good. Also, I keep telling these guys to read Judge Dredd: A Better World.
Oh, yeah.
But also, once again, very timely and poignant to the times. But it's really, really good. I don't read a lot of Dredd. And this one's not even. It doesn't even follow Judge Dredd mainly. It follows a different judge, who's trying to fix up a sector.
Judge Dredd.
Last two quick things. The Doom one shot that Marvel gave us earlier this year with Sanford Green and Jonathan Hickman. I mean, Doom chasing to kill Galactus. Like, I don't know how you don't read a story like that. And then last, but definitely not least, Ice Cream Man 42, just that one issue. It's about what is truly scary in the world. And once again, it even gives you a warning. It says, if you think this is getting too real, don't even read it. Your mental health is more important than reading this comic.
Wow.
That's how the book opens.
This is the one where each has different artists in the thing.
It's Marvel also, I think, still.
No, but I was like, it's a different. Oh, different writers. I mean, different writers.
No, it's for W. Macro Prince.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know there's one coming up.
43. The next one is the one that has every page has a different writer.
Okay.
Which I've read also, and it's already on my short list for 2025 best comics. So, Ice Cream Man rules. If you're not reading Ice Cream Man, what's wrong with you? And then, I guess, did I not talk about it here? And speaking of W. Maxwell Prince, Swan Songs, the anthology Swan Songs, all things come to an end, and exploring those different endings. So those are my honorable mentions. So Jeff, do you have any honorable mentions?
Boy, do I. I have, so I said Cobra Commander earlier, Sacrificers by Rick Remender and Andre, I can't say his last name.
Max Fujiwara?
Yeah. That sounds, in my head, it looks right. Sacrificers about a world where gods sacrifice young kids so they can keep their powers. And then one of them is just like, F this. And it's sort of like God of War. He just goes around and starts slaughtering the gods. He's like, no, you don't get to, claim all this power for yourself. Very prescient to our times. Again, they're all kind of anthropomorphized animal creatures, but not nearly as cute as the Beneath the Trees animals, but so good. Daniel mentioned earlier Rare Flavors by Ram V. A demon Anthony Bourdain is the best summation of that. And you get a recipe. You get a recipe that I will probably never try any of them, but in the back of my head, one of these days I will. In every single comic, there's like one recipe for a nice Indian dish. Tom King's current Wonder Woman run. God, it's so good. I love all the Trinity back story stuff, especially when he's writing Damian, Jonathan, and Trinity in the little background stories.
Oh, so the funny. Lizzie stuff in the back.
The Lizzie stuff, and then the main story with Diana is great, and the artwork is fantastic. I would also say Absolute Wonder Woman is my favorite Absolute book, especially this last issue where you find out what she does to herself. I'm just like, oh, she's a badass. Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, I think is going to get looked over a lot this year. But I think the first issue came out in 2023, but the sound comic that opens up and you hear the
Godzilla I remember
score.
That didn't work. Like it didn't work for like one.
But it's so much fun that this could have been such an awful series. But it's so nice to when you see something that could be it feels like a cash grab, but they do such a good job of just like taking all the toys out of the box and smashing them together in such a beautiful way. You get Godzilla versus a giant mech Batman suit kind of thing. It's so much fun to read. And then finally
we'll get Godzilla versus the Avengers.
That's right. Fantastic Four.
Yep,
Godzilla versus
they're coming.
I like that.
I don't know how they're doing another crossover now, but yep. Sorry, Jeff.
I love that. I don't know. It's no worries. But they did. I've seen that Godzilla venomized Godzilla. That's so cool.
That's a cash grab.
That's a cash grab. And then I read Ducks this year by Kate Beaton, and that's just a beautiful book.
Oh, Kate Beaton's always great.
Finally, some real comics, huh?
Real comics. I wanted to end on a real comic. Yeah. Ducks, very powerful.
Let it some credence to the full list, Jeff.
That's right. And then finally, I'd like to talk about this 1860s comic, this French comic from the 1860s. No. Yeah. Ducks is really good. It's a personal story for Kate Beaton about when she worked in the oil sands of Canada. So it's good stuff.
It's a hard read, I'll say that. But
it's a hard read.
Go into it knowing that. So okay. Josh, do you have any honorable mentions?
I do, and it didn't make my list only because the last issue isn't out yet. It comes out next month, but it's Grommets, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Again, speaking of Rick Remender, it's written by Remender with Brian Posehn. Brett Parson is the artist. Just really captures being skateboard punk loving kid in the late 70s, early 80s. Shit gets dark in these last two issues really dark. And so I'm kind of curious how they're going to resolve everything. There's only one issue left. So yeah, I'm really curious. But
I need to check the back because we wrote an email to them after we read. We wrote an email on the stream.
Oh, you're right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, go check the issues.
Yeah, hang on, I'll check.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the collected on that one. I did love that first issue, and that's just totally my vibe.
That might be on our 2025 list. That's the cool thing about these that, like Helen of Windhorn could have been on my list, but I haven't read it because I'm waiting for the collection. So
I like Helen of it almost made my list, but it ended so abruptly. I was just like, what? Yeah. What happened? Grommets does take a dark turn. Josh is right. As it starts getting darker and darker, I'm like, whoa, this comic is not going where I thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
Oh, God damn. Now I'm curious because I just read the first issue and y'all.
Well, and I think that's the thing that makes it feel so kind of real is there are those moments when you're a teenager where everything just seems like it's fun and fun loving, and then shit turns and you're like, fuck is going on? And that's what happens in this book. So
yeah, and it's real fast. Yeah,
it is.
Cool. Clay, do you have any honorable mentions? Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you guys for putting all this together. I know it's hard. Narrowing down my list to 5 things was incredibly difficult. And I'm very excited though because 2020. It's a good problem to have that 2024 was just such a great year for comic books. Whether it's just like random Marvel DC stuff or like some really cool indie stuff. Thanks to all the marketing people from these publishers that do a lot of hard work that send us stuff, and I appreciate that because then we get to look at cool things that otherwise we may not have found.
Oh yeah.
Especially Image making sure that we got Skybound stuff like day in and like day of. It really, really helps us out. So we appreciate that. Marvel, you still haven't called us back. So
one more I want to add to the list, The Sacred Damned that came out this year.
Which one?
The Sacred Damned from the Horizon Experiment. I think it was that's the she's the
Constantine, Muslim Constantine.
Constantine, that was so good. Oh my god.
That's probably my favorite of the Horizon. There's one more I think that's coming out next week or the week after. We have it on our events.
Yeah.
Reading previews. So yeah, I'm very excited. So let us know what are your best of 2024, whether it's a new book that came out in 2024 or a book that you found in 2024 that came out. Let us know down in the comments, and obviously go check out these creators and support them. So all right, when Josh gets back, we're gonna close out the show. We're not doing like a whole bunch of stuff as far as previously on because we made a survey and we sent it out. Let me see. Best Carlos Star Wars Unlimited. That's the trading card game that we play. And then a Deadpool team up. That was very interesting. I really like that too. Yeah. But when Josh gets back, we had a survey and we spread it out throughout the internet. And actually around 30 people or so sent responses back. So we're going to do our first ever award of 2024. The Nexties. I don't even know what to call it.
The nipples.
The nipples. I don't know if I want to tweet at a creator saying that congratulations, you received the nipple for 2024.
The statue would be awesome.
Only one.
It'd just be like the nipple of a bottle.
Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna talk about the next issue awards. These are as voted in by the people that watch this show, the people that for whatever reason clicked on the link that I shared on social media or any of the Discord that I'm a part of. So we appreciate that. I'll give out some shout outs at the end. So why don't we start? I think I moved those out of order. So hold on.
No, I was the number one.
Yeah, so okay, now we're in order. So we can go around. So Clay, would you please present our first award?
Leonard Kim, hold on. Free the nipple. That's the one.
Free the nipple.
Be the Nipples campaign.
Number one, what is your favorite animated movie of 2024? And the winner is The Wild Robot, which I had already gotten great buzz from because Shelby says that's a best-selling book at her store, that it's picked up a lot, and that the movie was going to be a big hit. I put it on my list of movies to break through for this year. So, yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've heard The Wild Robot's fantastic.
It should be on Peacock at some point because it is a DreamWorks thing.
Yeah,
so.
soon.
Yeah, I think they just announced it was going to be on Peacock pretty soon.
Nice. Jeff, would you present our next award?
Sure. Our favorite overall movie of 2024 award goes to Dune Part 2. Dune it to me again. People love a sandworm. People love a sandworm.
People acknowledge the Lisan Al-Gaib, who is also now. This makes me wonder, what is Timothée Chalamet going to get an Oscar for this or for A Complete Unknown? Let us know in the comments.
It's got to be Complete Unknown.
Do not care.
Have you ever seen the Academy care about anything with special effects?
Yeah, it's going to be The Complete Unknown.
May their knives chip and shatter.
Well, I mean, Black Panther.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was absolutely deserved. So, yeah.
Save it for your Oscar special, all right?
I mean, Lord of the Rings had to give us 43 hours of movies before they won an award. So,
and it was only the last one. So,
yeah, exactly.
Josh?
Yes. So, speaking of, what is your favorite live action movie of 2024? Yet again, it is Dune Part 2. But also Challengers, and I don't know what that means.
It's tied with Challengers, so the votes came in
Zendaya
for live action.
What is Challengers?
Challengers is the
tennis
movie with Zendaya.
It's the sex tennis.
And they did the three-way in it.
Look, if you guys are gonna make shit up, I'm just gonna get out of here. I literally have no clue what this movie is, but okay.
We see you and we acknowledge that you're horny, and we appreciate it.
Weirdly, it was still about the Challenger explosion, but that was just like the very, very end of the movie. It was just like the news clip at the end. And
it's about a tennis tournament that takes
I am very upset that the Lee Miller movie did not make this this cut, but okay.
Challengers has music by Trent Reznor and what's the other Nine Inch Nails? Anyway, the music is really good. I really like that movie. That might be on my list. We'll see. Tune in next week. All right.
I really never heard
our
of
next award. Our favorite overall TV show of 2024. Very fitting to our show. The Penguin from HBO Max.
Nice.
Shout out Colin Farrell.
I want to say perfect.
It's beautiful.
Is it a perfect show?
It might be. All right. Clay, you want to give us our next award? Oh, hold on. Did you delete it? I think it got deleted.
Somebody deleted it. Yeah, undo it. There we go. What is your favorite movie released on streaming in 2024? I had to look this up. I had never heard of Rebel Ridge.
Dude, I guess if you don't have Netflix, there's no way you would have watched it. But it's pretty. It stars.
If it's a good Netflix movie, I'll hit the high seas and look for it. But I won't pay for Netflix.
I recommend it. It stars the actor that's been cast to play Jon Stewart. I forget his name. So you definitely, and it's by the director that did The Green Room, that movie with. Oh man, I just forgot everyone's name. Anyway, Patrick Stewart. It's really good.
Elijah Wood.
Anton Chuck. It's the actor that passed away from Star Trek.
Hold on. Oh, okay. Now I'm into it. Now I see why. Because he directed Blue Ruin.
Okay.
Have y'all seen Blue Ruin? That's one of my favorite indie films of all time. Holy shit. I can't recommend Blue Ruin enough. It is just one of the best suspense movies I've seen in forever. And I will rewatch that over and over again. Maybe almost the best revenge movie next to Old Boy.
Oh, interesting. Oh, maybe I need to watch that.
Yeah, so Rebel Ridge, I'm in now. You sold me just because of that movie.
Great. All right. Next, it's a multiple weight tie, so I'll take this one because I have the data. what is your favorite comic book series of 2024? We got 16 responses, but 2 of those were that they skipped the question. so because I left an option that there's not a people read comics. So here's what they had on the list: Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, FML, the Kelly Sue DeConnick book with David Marcus, Fish Flies, the Jeff Lemire book, Helen of Windhorn, House of Slaughter, John Constantine Hellblazer, Dead in America, Poison Ivy, The Uncanny X-Men, Tom King's Wonder Woman, which Jeff talked about a little bit, Transformers, and Ultimate Spider-Man. So we got a lot of those on our list. So I'm glad to see that people that responded to the survey also kind of vibe with those things. So those are our people's favorite comic book series of 2024. All right. Who's next? Jeff?
What is your favorite graphic novel collection of 2024? And that would be Man's Best from Boom Studios.
This is the book that follows a few cute little animals as they are stranded in a spaceship, very reminiscent of We 3, but in space. For those that haven't read that. So, all right, Josh, can you go to our next one?
Yes. What is your favorite comic book from DC Comics in 2024? I think no surprise it was AbsoluteBatman.
Listen, I didn't skew the polls. I have the results. I can.
How many
I can
times
prove
did you
the
vote?
numbers are there.
It was actually a Fantastic Four, but Danny went in and said nope, and then
the DC. We do have a Marvel, which
it was still Fantastic Four. That's
people wrote in Fantastic Four on the DC question.
Right.
What is your favorite comic book from Marvel Comics in 2024? Ultimate Spider-Man. So the people agree with you, Jeff. As far as these, now the next two all percent because it's a multiple way tie, and that just means that only like a few people answered it, and they all had different responses. So, for favorite comic book by indie publisher, and these are just really good recommendations. So we have Crocodile Black. This is from Boom Studios. FML. We have Matthew on the chat saying Wolverine Revenge as well for Marvel stuff.
Interesting.
Now, as far as more indie stuff, what is this? Helen of Windhorn, House of Slaughter, Power Rangers, The Department of Truth, The Power of Fantasy, which will probably be on my 2025 list. It's gonna end in 2025 because it's 9 issues, so I don't want to include it. The Young Nomads, which that one I'm not familiar with, but now I'm gonna look into it.
That rings a bell.
And Universal Monsters Frankenstein.
Yes.
And then we also asked, who is your favorite comic creator of 2024? In which we had all different responses. So let me give you the quick list. Shout out to Jeff Lemire, J. Willow Wilson, Chip Zdarsky, Tom Taylor, Oliver Mertz, Mark Wade, David Marcus. I love that there's a combination of artists and writers here. James Tinian IV, Cy Spurrier, Tom King, Liana Kangas, and Al Ewing and Matthew are in the chat, shouting out Rob Liefeld. Chloe does not agree. But
I'm just trying to think what he did other than rando covers.
It was a Deadpool, not Deadpool. It was the character that he recently created that kind of. I think he's Deadpool's kid with Storm. I don't remember the name of the character.
Wait, what?
I know. There's the whole thing. We don't have time. We're already almost at 2 hours.
Everything you said was wrong. That just.
Well, speaking of that, I think you'll say this wrong. So, Clay, can you present our next award, please?
Oh, I'm going to say this wrong. What is your favorite manga series for 2024?
Oh, wow.
All right, here we go. Goku Rakugai?
Yeah, Goku Rakugai.
That sounds good, yeah.
That's pretty good, Clay. That's pretty good. All right.
I know nothing about it to further talk about
I need to look into it. We got a few different responses from manga, but this one stood out. Jeff,
does that have anything to do with the Gork? Never mind. I don't know.
Goku.
Okay, so Goku. Is it Goku? Is it Goku and is it Araku
Everything has
Kais?
Goku in anime, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. I don't know. What is your favorite anime of 2024? Dan to Dan, whatever that means. I think that's an issue you get from Pan.
Dan to Dan was fantastic, and you should watch it on Netflix. It's about a girl who believes in the supernatural and a boy who believes in aliens, and they become friends, and they're both proven right.
Where is this streaming? That sounds amazing.
On Netflix and Crunchyroll, I think.
Okay, all right.
All right, Josh. Oh, and we have also Matthew in the chat, Castlevania, which I mean,
I have heard it's so good, and I've not watched any of it.
Never gonna say no to Castlevania.
Yeah,
right,
I heard it's great.
Our last award, and maybe this will be the free membership.
Our last award, which I vehemently disagree with. What is your favorite streaming service of 2024? It should be BritBox, but the people chose HBO Max, which I want to point out is now just called Max.
Maximum shit.
No, this was overwhelming. How many people?
Really?
Out of everyone, this was the second closest was like Disney Hulu, and it wasn't even close.
Wow, that is now okay. I will say, I think the only reason, like, I use Max. It's not. But the thing is, it provides access to a lot of shows that previously used to be really locked behind stuff, right? Like all the HBO stuff, which I could never watch because I didn't have HBO. It does provide access to that, so I get that. But wow, the best service. I mean,
all those superhero movies you can find elsewhere now because they've started to sell them off. They're about to get rid of Adult Swim and a lot of the programming that's on there. They're about to just unload everything and just go with their reality shit. Because if you look at their top 10 stuff, it's a lot of reality turds. I mean, it's the 1,000-Pound Sisters, it's 90 Day Fiance, it's The Last Resort. And I'm like, wow, we just really lost touch with entertainment. We just want to watch people with mental health problems all the time. That's what Max has for entertainment. And they're getting rid of like really story-driven stuff that I enjoy.
Here's an interesting thing. Let's do this at the end of 25 and see if Max is still the top streaming service.
Yeah, I hate that we've come to this, and it's like we're already 2 hours into the show. Because I would, like Clay, I would get up on a soapbox right now and go for another 4 hours talking about how streaming is ruining our lives.
Yeah, their app sucks. Nothing. I'm glad I don't pay for it. That's the best thing about it. Is not.
Yeah, I don't either. I get it free for my ISP, but
I like that Jeff has this argument as he watches Man versus Hamster or whatever.
It doesn't mean we can't. Okay, there's a difference between the streaming service as a platform and the content on that platform, right?
I think Max has a lot of great stuff. Like the Hacks is great. Like there's stuff.
Oh, Hacks is amazing. Yeah.
I just think that when you go to the streaming service, it's just vomit on my screen. I don't know what to. They're bad at discerning what. I don't trust anybody's. This is what top 10 things are in the country, or whatever.
I guess
this like your algorithm is just pushing that stuff that you want me to see.
People might have understood this as like what their content is. I think I agree because I would say 70% of Sunday nights, I was watching something on Max, whether it was House of the Dragon, Penguin, Dune. Like they still have me on Sunday nights watching on their app. But I agree. If you want to look like this weekend, I was looking for stuff, like just wanted to watch a movie or something. It's tough because you're like, what the hell are the movies?
Yeah, I have to Google the movie first to find out where it's streaming and if it's even streaming on something.
Yeah.
Like my favorite streaming services would be like Shudder. What's the old College Humor that they Dropout is so much fun. Like that's the weird stuff that I like to go see.
I mean, the two nicest things I can say about Max is one, the thing I watch on there the most because it's kind of hidden is you basically get CNN for free. So I'll just turn on the news. But the other one is the app is not as bad as Paramount Plus, which how the fuck that app exists where it only loads 30% of the time. Mm-hmm. I'm like, Paramount, fix your fucking app. I mean, it's bad. It's so bad.
Also, if you're watching this, I know it's the end of the show. Apple TV is doing a free preview this weekend, so
Oh yeah, I love that. That's so great about that.
so
I posted that in one of our Discord chat.
Mythic Quest. So
Apple TV and Disney Plus were the next, like after that, but it was only like 2 votes, whereas Max got like 7 out of everybody that
wow,
voted.
that's
Yeah.
I'd put
I-
Apple TV above Max.
Tubi did make its appearance though, so that's nice. I hope Tubi and Pluto make more appearances because those are kind of the things that people are just like. It's kind of like having cable and just leaving it on all day.
yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you still get ads and stuff. All right, and then to close out this part, first of all, thank you to everybody that responded to our survey. I really love that because then, like, it's kind of a close opinion here with the 4 of us. And then just to answer this quick, Matthew, I'm waiting for Chapter 2 to come out to watch Watchmen, the animated stuff. So once that's on Max, I'll actually watch both things. Obviously, I already know where it's gonna end, so like I'm not too worried about the spoilers. And more about the adaptation. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about it when it comes out. We also had a thing where you could leave a message for next issue. So here's the messages. You guys suck. Stop doing this. Why do you? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Josh guy is the worst.
Yeah. Close it down. No, you rock. I hope 25 is a great one. We hope so too. I like this one. I'm a terrible person for this since I'm never up to date on media. Sorry. Love your podcast. You guys have got me through some tough times, and I really appreciate you. Happy New Year. We also appreciate that. We're glad we could be there on Saturday mornings. Merry Christmas. So this one's probably from a couple weeks ago. I've never been able to catch the show live, but I do enjoy watching the replay. Have Kev on as soon as possible. Sure, I'll reach out to Kev so we can talk about movies. Keep up the good stuff. Keep up the great work, and Happy New Year. So there you go.
Have who on?
Kev is he's the host of the Austin Danger podcast. He's a buddy of mine.
Okay.
So we should have him on. Maybe we should do an Austin Powers episode. See how those films hold up.
I'd be up for that. I've been meaning to rewatch him and show him to Hazel. So
There you go. Oh, we should have both Kev and Hazel on.
Oh, that'd be good.
I've heard rumors that he's coming back with an Austin Powers film.
That I feel like that's an evergreen rumor too. Like anybody talks to him about it.
Yeah, but with SNL's 50, you know that they're always going to be interviewing past cast members. So it'll be like, are we going to get a Wayne's World 3? Are we going to get, they're just wanting the old shit.
Yeah, Clickholders ready. They already have it drafted up. They're just waiting for another comment so they can source it. Cool. Well, that was our show. We don't have time for anything else because we've gone on too long already. But this one was all about the celebration of the comics of 2024.
Oh yeah.
So as you can see, there's a lot of really great stuff out there. So go read some comics. Anything else from you guys?
Nope.
All right. Well, I said at the top of the show, Happy New Year. I hope everybody's having a good time in 2025. And if you're not, come check us out. Come hang out with us on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
We'll try to make it a little better. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone.
See ya.
Thanks.
The most important thing in life will always be
El Bebo.
Simon Sinner, get the fuck out.